So the dark side of Christian culture with regard to preparing you for a life of faith and growing up and maturing into a solid life of faith is that the Christian bubble or a church or a youth group, whatever it is, the Christian bubble, if it acts like a greenhouse so that you're growing, but there are no roots going down because there's so much water and so much whatever. There's no wind exposure because you're in a greenhouse. There's a lot of opportunity for growth, none for depth, none for roots, nothing for resilience, right? So if it ends up being too much of a greenhouse effect, then we haven't adequately prepared children to be in the world, not of the world. So there has to be in our thinking a way of trying them, testing them, forcing them to have to struggle, wrestle, because there's a resiliency that comes with that, right? The fattened calf is fattened because it wasn't allowed to do any kind of struggle, and it gets fat. Struggle produces leanness and endurance and resiliency and those kinds of things. And so how do we incorporate that into our discipleship? Allow people to be test-strained, allow them to make mistakes and to get back up. Don't over-insulate them so that when they move out of our house or out of our church, off to college, whatever it might be, they might really get, and they might even fall. But they've got roots that hopefully are there to protect them so that they don't just blow over in the wind. That they've had enough of this already that it's not like it's catching them unawares. They've experienced it. They know how to handle it, how to think their way through it, how to get away and debrief, where to go for advice, all of that kind of stuff. So I think the question you're asking is a really good one. It's either extreme is bad. If we don't give any kind of Christian education to people, we just let them run with the high school crowd and they go off and sin. And there's just no counterbalance. That just seems really foolish. Over-protecting and coddling Christians in their faith seems also foolish because you can't sustain that. And it's also not real. And it's a dependent kind of faith. I'm depending on the culture, I'm depending on my youth group, I'm depending on my youth pastor, I'm depending on my parents, but I haven't learned how to be independent, where this faith is my own. I can stand up for myself. I can resist whatever challenges come. So somehow these are the ends or the extremes that we're trying to avoid. And we're trying to really do like Deuteronomy 6 and say, as I'm walking through life, I'm training my kids up in how to think about what is our understanding of God say or how does it shape what's going on in front of us here. So that's Deuteronomy 6. As I walk down the road, I'm discipling my kids. I'm mentoring my kids. Now, it's as I walk down the road. It's not keep my kids from the road and disciple them. It's as I'm walking down the road, I'm teaching them to understand life so that I'm replicating my wisdom into my children so that they can be wise themselves. Great question. And I do think the church, if we can think about these things a little bit better, we can hopefully prepare our children, to own their faith in a deeper and more significant way than sometimes they do. Great question.